blow out candles, make a wish, and everyone sings the same song. It feels like something that has always existed, a tradition as old as humanity itself. But birthdays, as we celebrate them today, are surprisingly recent. For most of human history, people didn't celebrate the day they were born at all. So where did this tradition actually come from, and why did it take so long to become normal? Let's go back to the very beginning. In the ancient world, most ordinary people didn't even know their exact birth date. There were no calendars in every home, no birth certificates, no official records for common families. Farmers tracked seasons, not days, planting and harvesting by the rhythm of nature rather than a fixed date. A person's age was often just a rough guess based on memory, appearance, or major events like wars or floods. But there was one group of people whose birthday truly mattered: rulers. In ancient Egypt, the coronation day of a pharaoh was treated as sacred, more important than the day of physical birth. It wasn't the day they were born that was celebrated, it was the day they became a god-king, reborn into divine authority. This birth into power was marked with grand ceremonies, offerings, and feasts that could last for days. In Mesopotamia, royal birthdays were tied closely to religious rituals and omens. Priests would read the stars and skies to determine if the day was favorable for the ruler and the kingdom. For common people, none of this applied whatsoever. Birth was simply a private family matter, not a public celebration worth marking each year. The idea of celebrating birthdays for everyday people began to shift with the ancient Greeks. Wealthy Greek families started marking birthdays with small offerings to protective spirits. Cakes, round like the moon, were sometimes made to honor the goddess Artemis. Some historians believe lit candles were placed on these cakes to make them glow like moonlight. The Romans took this further, but with an important distinction. Roman men of status celebrated their own birthdays with parties among friends. Women's birthdays, however, were rarely celebrated in the same public way. For most of the population, birthdays still weren't widely marked at all. Then came a major shift, driven by religion. Early Christian communities were actually suspicious of birthday celebrations. They associated the practice with pagan rituals tied to earlier Roman and Greek customs. For centuries, celebrating your birth date was seen by some as inappropriate, even sinful. Instead, name days tied to saints became far more significant in many Christian regions. Birthdays, as personal celebrations, nearly disappeared from public life in parts of Europe. It would take many more centuries before they returned in the form we recognize today. The modern birthday party as we know it began to take shape in Germany centuries later. In the 1700s, a tradition called Kinderfeste emerged, a birthday celebration created specifically for children. On the morning of a child's birthday, candles were placed on a cake, one for each year of life, plus one extra candle symbolizing hope for the year ahead. The candles were lit early in the morning and left burning throughout the entire day, a small flickering reminder of the celebration. The child would make a wish and blow them out only after the evening meal, surrounded by family. This tradition slowly spread among wealthier German families who could afford the ritual. But cakes at this time were still expensive and time-consuming to prepare from scratch. Sugar, refined flour, and skilled bakers were not accessible to most ordinary households across Europe. Birthday cakes remained a luxury, reserved mainly for the upper classes and special occasions. Everything changed with the Industrial Revolution. Sugar became cheaper and more widely available across Europe and America. Baking ingredients that were once rare, luxury items became affordable for ordinary families. For the first time, regular households could bake something resembling a proper cake. Around the same period, in the late 1800s, a simple tune began to spread. Two American sisters, Patty and Mildred Hill, wrote a classroom song called "Good Morning to All." Decades later, the melody was adapted with new lyrics, and "Happy Birthday to You" was born. The song spread rapidly, sung in homes, schools, and eventually across the entire world. By the early 1900s in the United States, birthday parties for children became increasingly common. Streamers, small gifts, and shared cake became a recognizable part of middle-class family life. As mass production grew, birthday cards, decorations, and party supplies became cheap and easy to find in stores. What was once a private, quiet family moment slowly became something to display and celebrate publicly. By the mid-1900s, birthdays had spread across much of the industrialized world. Different cultures blended their own traditions into the celebration. In Mexico, the piñata became a joyful centerpiece of children's birthday parties. In parts of Asia, longevity noodles are served instead or alongside cake, symbolizing a long life. In Jewish tradition, some communities mark birthdays with a special blessing rather than a large party. Despite the differences, one thing remained the same everywhere. Birthdays became a way to say, "You matter, and we're glad you exist." So the next time you blow out a candle and make a wish, remember, you're taking part in a tradition older, stranger, and far more human than you ever imagined.